Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for joining me again this week. I am here with a repeat guest I'm very happy to have back, Sherry Maynor. Sherry Maynor is owner of Smooth Transitions of Greater Atlanta. And Smooth Transitions, if you listened to the shows before, is a company that helps move seniors in need from home to assisted living, or if they're in crisis and they just need to downsize and come home from the hospital and live with their sons or daughters. And it's a pretty... I'm an advocate for older adults and seniors because that's what I've dedicated my life to for the past couple of decades. But I found Sherry and her husband, Chris, of Smooth Transitions, and they're advocates for seniors. So there's quite a connection. I'm so excited to have her back on the show today. And she will actually bump other folks on the moving schedule so that a senior in need can get moved quicker. So we're going to talk all about that today, again, and remind you all of the great services that are available for seniors in need. But also, Sherry has something very exciting to tell us and update us on. And so I'm going to let her tell us, and we're going to talk a little bit about her new venture. So Sherry, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back with you.
It's so good to see you. You're like a bright, sunshiny aura about you. And so I love seeing you after all this time. She walks in with a big smile and just happiness eradicates around you.
Well, you help promote that. We just hit it off. It's great.
Okay, so before we talk about Smooth Transitions, let's talk about what's new and exciting with you these days.
Well, I'm very pleased to announce that my first book was published and came out nationally at the end of February. It's called Life Must Go On, and it's based on the true story of me and my girlfriend, whom I lost to cancer after an 8-year battle. And I know people are like, oh my gosh, not another book about death, and that. It's really not. It's a story of the bonds of friendship and motherhood and wives and how we help each other get through and going through cancer and death and surviving it. It's meant to be inspirational to people because we get down in that deep hole and we just sit there sometimes.
I'm so excited for you. You're an author.
Thank you. Yes. It's like, okay, wow.
So it's very exciting. We talk a lot about different diagnoses here and problems and issues all the time. And it is a book about you and your loss of your best friend. And that's sad, and you talk about some of the sadness and the different points within the journey that were difficult for you and her and both of your families to get through. But one of the things I was telling Sherry today, I'm so busy. You know, I'm a single mom, and I have a full-time and a half job because it's just constant, and I travel a lot, and I don't have a lot of time to read a book. So I was so pleasantly surprised when I opened your book. And it was just so conversational. I felt like we were in this room talking on the radio about your life and your journey. And it's just such an easy, welcoming, calming, soothing, however funny that sounds, even though you're talking about your best friend dying from cancer.
Right.
It's just a wonderful book. And so thank you, first of all, for sending it to me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Congratulations, second of all, on becoming an author.
Thank you.
And thirdly, I want you all to know about this book, and I'm happy to be talking about a happy subject as well, even though it's about death and dying. Life Must Go On is the name of the book. It's got a beautiful cover of a sunset and a woman sitting on the end of a pier looking out onto the water with the sun. I don't know if it's a sunrise or a sunset. It looks like a sunset to me.
It is.
And it's a quick read, and it's just a nice, I think most women would truly enjoy this book. So if you're looking for a book to go to the beach this summer and read and just sit and get away from your life in general and be reminded of all of the things that we as women are so fortunate to have, like friendships and family and bonds. And men, this is a great book too for you if you know anyone struggling with someone who's losing their life or anyone who is losing their life. This is also a book that can teach a lot to men as well about what their maybe wives are going through or their mothers or their loved ones and what they can do and what they can how they can help as well.
That's what I love about the book, because it's not just one age group, not one gender. We all share in this experience, but we all share it differently. And it's meant to inspire people to get beyond, to go beyond. Or like you said, to help somebody understand the bonds and getting through them.
Yes, and the importance of that relationship so that they can be there for you.
Right.
Okay, so again, it's called Life Must Go On, and it's written by Sherry Maynor, Maner, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
And it's also been published through what publishing company?
Tate Publishing out of Mustang, Oklahoma.
Mustang, Oklahoma.
Mustang.
Okay, so let's walk our listeners through the book. So obviously you're Sherry, and you're talking about your best friend. So how would you bring them into the story?
It started, I'm a writer by heart. So when I lost Carol Ann, I started journaling. And just to get my feelings out, because you think everybody doesn't want to hear all the pain and suffering you have down inside. And over time...
Huge advocate for that, by the way. Huge advocate. Whether you can write or not, writing it down keeps you in sync, too. Sometimes you don't want to say what you wrote down. And when you write it down and go to bed, you're in a better place the next day. And sometimes you want to write it down to save it, to savor it. And you can talk about it later. And sometimes you want to write it down just as a memoir.
Right, and I really didn't have an intention of creating a book from it. But as I went through this process, and of course over months and months and months of trying to heal myself from a black hole, and I didn't even realize the depression and that was affecting me, my family, my job, when I was in corporate America. And Carol Ann gives me some special gifts from beyond the grave that I'm not going to reveal because you have to read the book to know.
I'm not finished with it, by the way, this crazy busy working mother. I still have about a third of it to go through, so I don't know how it ends, but it's wonderful.
She actually, through this little gift of hers and the beautiful memories and bonds I had with her, helped me decide that there's other people out there that may need some help in getting through what I was going through. And we just can't. So it turned into a book of inspiration and healing, and it evolved into this. And I'm just so proud and so pleased. I think it's a beautiful tribute to her and a friendship, bonds that we share, many of us share.
So who is Carol Ann?
She happened into my life. She moved in next door, her and her family, and the moment I met this little 5-foot, vibrant redhead with a smile that would light up the world, I loved her. I couldn't help it. Pardon me for saying this, but she was from as far up in Michigan as you could possibly get. And I'm thinking, wow, what are we going to have in common? And it was just instant attraction. And our husbands got along wonderfully. Our children got along wonderfully. And from that moment on, it just blossomed. We vacationed together. We looked after each other's children. We hugged each other's children when we needed it. We ran to each other when we needed a pep or a laugh or just a sigh for the end of the day. And it blossomed. And I had her in my life for 10 short years, 8 of which she battled cancer.
Yeah, this is a
reoccurring
long journey.
Cancer.
I want to just talk not specifically about Carol Ann and the book, but what the book is about and what it represents, because, we hear statistics about women living longer than men, and a lot of it is attributed to, in many of the reports, our bonds, our friendships. We're more open to talking about things that bother us, and we are more open to sharing and getting support from our network and our friends, and that's so beautifully illustrated throughout your book.
Thank you.
About your trials along the way while she is on and off battling cancer. And so it's not just about cancer, it's just about growing up and living as a mom in a place that we're all in. And so, I don't want to alienate the men here, because I think it's really important. This is such a great book for them to understand what maybe their wives are going through when a friend has breast cancer, or when a aunt or anybody is going through. And it can also help them to talk about it if not with another guy, but maybe with another woman, and why that's so important to their journey as well. So please, if you're listening and you're a guy, don't leave me. Because it's important. But Carol Ann moved in next door, and you talked about, and this touched on me because I moved here from the north. So I moved into a new neighborhood, and I didn't know a soul in Georgia. And friendships are very important to women. And I thought, how am I going to restart my whole life here? And how important neighbors are when you do move in, because that's your network, your immediate network right there. And so you were saying, gosh, I hope someone moves in that I can be friends with. And I identified with you on that one. And then the immediate connection. And then just right away, you were almost best friends right away.
Oh, absolutely. It was odd how that happened, but it just did. She was given to me, I think, as a gift, because what brought her to our neighborhood is that she suffered from seizures and could no longer drive. And she had a flourishing career with a large restaurant here in Atlanta, and she couldn't do it anymore because of the seizures. So this opportunity came up in the neighborhood elementary school to manage the cafeteria. She could walk to work. You know, everything happens for a reason. And that's why, and we were brought together through that destiny of hers, fate.
So let's talk about what it's like being the friend, just to fast forward a little bit, of someone who is diagnosed with cancer. And to help our audiences, you know, how do you help your friend that gives you news like that while you're still processing it? Because you talked a little bit about that in the book too.
You can feel kind of guilty because you want to sit down and melt and go, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to me? Because my best friend has cancer.
And it's natural
to
think
it is.
How this is going to affect you. You're not human, and get rid of the guilt. Get rid of that guilt, because you're not human if you don't realize the loss of this person that's important to me is going to affect me. And if you can't address that, then you can't help them either.
No, you can't. And, you know, it's important to have a very positive outlook on life. And, you know, even though she ultimately did pass away, she had cancer reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring. And she just kept that, I'm going to beat it, I'm going to beat it. She had me convinced she was going to beat it every time. And I was right there with her. And, you know, things would happen, like when she lost all of her beautiful hair. You know, that just broke her heart. She said, I'm going to be bald-headed. And I'm like, well, you know, her husband shaved off his facial hair. And I told her, I said, I would shave off my hair too, but my head is lumpy. So I just don't think that's going to be very attractive. But she wanted the hats they make for cancer victims, you know, to cover it. I bought her a hat. Pick out one you like, we'll wear a hat. You know, she got a wig, and Northside here in Atlanta was wonderful, and they created this beautiful wig for her. And she would wear it, and then finally she got to wear it. You know what? It is what it is. It's too hot down here in Georgia to wear this wig during the summer. I'm just going to be bald. And I'm like, well, you're just as beautiful bald as you are with hair. And it's those things. You have to be willing.
So she's bringing you along the journey. She's almost guiding you for your responses as well. And how great that she was such a and I think we do attract ourselves to like folks, but a bright, sunshiny survivor kind of person. Was. So she helped guide you through the journey as well. But what did you, okay, so first you said, oh my gosh, my friend has cancer. How's this going to affect me? And then what's the best advice you can give to somebody who gets that information? Guy or woman, it doesn't matter.
It's real. You can't ignore it. You don't have to ask them every day, how are you doing? If they want to sit and tell you, let them. You don't necessarily have to have a response, but you're there with them. You know, let them know, a little squeeze of the hand, a tug of this. Or, you know, she would get frustrated sometimes with the treatments and things that were happening, and she would just want to explode. And it's like, okay, I'll explode with you. What do you need? I'm good. And the ramifications of chemo and radiation on her body were very difficult. And it's girlfriend time. It was the girlfriend bond of what was happening. I know it sounds kind of awful, but we would end up laughing about what was happening. You had to. You couldn't stay in that dark hole, or else she would never get past it.
Well, because, and I had a friend that told me, I am not cancer.
Yes.
My name is blah, 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 and I have cancer. But cancer does not define who I am.
No, not at all.
And so you have to be in the moment. You have to allow them the emotions and the ups and downs. But then I think the best thing you can do as a friend is just be normal. Just let them be who they are without having this black cloud over them all the time.
And that's the truth. You know, when you see each other, that doesn't have to be the topic of the day. If they want to tell you now, ironically, unfortunately, however you want to say this, when she got cancer the first time, she was battling for her life, and I became pregnant kind of unexpectedly, and we were battling for the life of our unborn daughter.
And that's in the book too, and I love the parallels there, and then also the check and balances.
Yes.
That you talk about a lot. Like, okay, you know what? Enough of this pity party. Look at my friend Carol Ann.
Right, it's got to go on. And because of her treatments, there were times when we wouldn't even be able to see each other, even though we lived right next door, just because of treatment and her low immune system and what was happening with me and being bedridden. So we battled for life at the same time in different ways, and we tried to support each other as much as we could, you know, on the phone. And when I was going through that, she didn't call me every day and go, oh, my God, what's the latest on the baby? You know, she's like, how you doing? Well, I'm laid up here in bed. How you think I'm doing? You know, give me something to do. No, please. And
in a way, I can imagine, I don't think you talk too much about this, but in a way I can imagine that you were going through such a trial helped her probably be a little bit more open with it because life wasn't just hunky-dory for you. So in a way, that almost was a gift of timing too, so that the two of you could bond together.
Oddly.
Yeah.
You know, we were already so close, but that brought us even closer. And long about the time that Carol Ann was done with her first treatment and had gotten the news, like, okay, we're in remission, our daughter Katie was born, healthy, beyond every god-awful thing they said was going to be wrong with her.
While Carol Ann is healthy and happy and living very well. And that,
Yes.
I mean, there's just so many gifts. There's so many great times through this book. And there's downs and there's ups and you take us on that roller coaster, which is so great.
And that's life. Life is a roller coaster. Relationships are that way. You need the ups and the downs to appreciate all of it. You know, and I also think that that's why Carol Ann and Katie, our youngest, were so close. You know, because the minute she saw her, it was her baby as well, because she had survived, Carol had survived. And they always shared that special bond. It was wonderful all the way around.
So what do you want the audience to know about your book? What do you want to share with them? I want everyone to get the book because I really think it would be helpful to anyone just living life, just going through life. There's so many lessons in it. But what's the bottom line? What do you want to share with folks?
I appreciate you saying that it was an easy read, because that's what it was meant to be. It's life. There's not all these big, huge technical medical terms. I couldn't spell them even if I could pronounce them. And it's not about death and dying. That's not the message. It's the bonds we have and what we create and how we hold on to them that help us get through life. And when we lose those bonds and we can't bring ourselves out of an ugly place, it's often the memories and those cherished bonds that bring us out of it if we let ourselves hold on to it. You know, it's the memories. They don't have to be all bad. I was notorious for hanging on to her last text, her phone number, so that I could call her and hear that voice after she was gone. And that was killing me. It was killing me. It wasn't her anymore. She's not there. Mm-hmm. And so it's a book of inspiration.
But the book is called Life Must Go On, and I haven't finished it. I tried really bad. And I almost don't want to let the folks know about the ending anyway, because I really want them to have this around, because even after the first read, this is a good book to have in your home so that when someone you know starts on a journey like this, you can say, hey, this is a really good book for you to read. So I like the thought of having this in a lot of people's houses because I know that it will be the gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
Much like the title,
so.
Life Must Go On. And I know that she's continuing to give you gifts to help you move on with your life. So we won't go too much into the end. One, because I can't, because I didn't read it.
Well,
but two, because I don't want you to spoil it for me. And three, because I want to create some kind of an excitement about folks so that they'll get the book and finish it themselves. But, you know, my mother lost a very, very close friend when I was a teenager. And she was a neighbor. And we used to go to her house and swim in her pool because she was the only one with an in-ground pool,
Right.
Lorraine. And so I remember the journey that she was on through a teenager's eyes, through the eyes of her daughter, and feeling sad. And then not having Mom for a little while because she was going over to Lorraine's house at Cape Cod at the time they had moved to take care of her. And then my mom coming back just really sad, but then also telling me stories about how much fun she had being with Lorraine and how important it is to have good friends and how grateful she is that she had this great friend. And a lot of that resonated in your book. So even like as the daughter of someone whose mom was losing a friend, this would have been a great read for me too.
Well, it's funny you say that because I have 3 daughters. Chris and I have 3 daughters. And they were there, they lived it. But seeing it from a whole different perspective, from my perspective, things I didn't share with them, they're like,
Because you protect your children.
Sure, absolutely. And, you know, our daughters have a wide age range.
Yeah, because that baby that you weren't so sure about was going to get here was a little bit later in life.
And we really protected her.
Yeah.
And from what was happening. So that was a difficult moment. So for them to read it now, from my perspective, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I didn't understand. Or they're like, wow, it's kind of strange to read about my life in a book, you know, what I did.
I bet.
It is. And I'm like, okay, are y'all okay with this? And they're like, yeah, we're okay with it. It's a good book.
And so, you know, the full disclosure is that I have not read the last part of the book, but the title, Life Must Go On, and from what I have gotten, I know that it's going to talk to me more
Yes.
about how it helps for the future of your life just to have gone through that experience with someone that you can call such a close friend, and the gifts that they give you that you can apply to living the rest of your life. That's my assumption.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm a huge advocate in that, and you touched upon it a few minutes ago. But, you know, good and bad happens to all of us throughout our whole lives. And we do have to address the bad because you don't want to harbor that because that ends up in the pit of your stomach. And whether you think you've gotten rid of it or not, it will come out in ways that will harm you.
It absolutely
But
does.
I also know people that harp on the bad and they forget or the positives are clouded and how much of a travesty that is. Because you are the writer of your next chapter. So no matter what those past chapters are that happened in your own life's book, you can still control what the next chapter and the last chapter is going to be and the legacy that you leave behind. And so I love the idea of this book for so many reasons, but also just I can imagine because of her bright, sunshiny survivor, hopeful, positive persona and character, what she gave to you to help you and your character as well to live the rest of your life with as much positiveness as possible. And what a gift this down was. You can almost see one of the hardest times in your life being one of the most positive for you to live the rest of your life.
Absolutely. She gave me that gift.
So I'm assuming that's the last message, but I'm going to encourage you all again to get this book. It's called Life Must Go On, and it's written by Sherry Maynor, and that's SherriManer, and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble as well. And Tate Publishing Company is the publisher of the book. So, Sherry, thank you.
Thank you.
For sharing your story, not only by giving me the book, but also coming on the show so that we could share the story, because I truly believe this book could be a gift to so many people on this journey and so many people to give to others on this journey. So I'm hopeful that we can get this book in more homes, because working in home care and working in hospice and working in end-of-life care, this is an important message to get out there for everybody to live a positive life as life goes on for all of us, no matter what the outcome.
I appreciate that.
But also quite moving to me is the title of the book and what you do for a living. Life Must Go On. And Sherry helps people move on to their next step in their life through her company, Smooth Transitions of Greater Atlanta. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk all about her company and what the wonderful things are that she does for our older adults and seniors when they're needing to move on in their next chapter of life. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. We're back. Thanks for staying with me. I'm still here with Sherry Maynor, who is the owner of Smooth Transitions of Greater Atlanta with her husband, Chris. And in the first half of the show, we talked about Sherry's new book, Life Must Go On, and it talks about her journey through her best friend's battle with cancer. And we didn't talk about how that ended, and I hope y'all will get the book, because I think it's a beautiful book about life, about friendships, about bonds, about lifting people up, and about seeing the positive in things that don't necessarily look positive from the start, and the gifts in the trials and tribulations that we are given. But this half hour of the show, we're going to talk about Sherry's company, Smooth Transitions. Life must go on. And during the break, we were talking about how difficult it is for people to move on to their next step in their journey here on earth. And a lot of times that's very, very difficult for seniors and our older adults who have maybe lived in a home for their whole life, and now they just, for their safety's sake, just can't stay there anymore. So Sherry, tell us a little bit about Smooth Transitions, and then we'll walk folks through the process and how that all works here in Atlanta.
I'd be glad to. Chris and I will meet with a family, and like you said, for example, they've lived in the home for 30 years, and they just may be physically at a point where they're moving to a senior community that's local, or they may be even moving out of state to go be with their children, closer to their children. And we'll go in and help them sort through their home, their items, what they want to give to family or friends, items that need to be donated, items that may possibly have value and they would like to sell. And once we've done all of that, Chris and I ourselves pack it. We help coordinate a mover for them. We're not the movers. We're a little bit too old for that. We need some young, muscular guys. And when we get to their new environment, if it's local, Chris and I will help with the floor plan and guide the movers, but we'll put everything away. And depending on the size of the move, it's usually that day or no later than the next day that we have pictures hung, soap in the soap dish, beds made, all of that. So they literally don't have to do anything. Now, should they have family that's here and can help, or the seniors themselves may still be able to, they're just preparing ahead of time, we'll do as little or as much as they want with their guidance.
Yeah, and there's just so much in what you just said that I want to dissect it a little bit. Let's first start. I mean, your service is so important, and I have a personal story to share about your service now since the last time you came on, and we'll talk about that too. But I want to dissect all that you do, and we'll take it step by step. First of all, there's someone that has to move. And moving is never easy.
No.
It's difficult on a physical level because you're moving from one physical place to another. But it's also even more difficult most times on an emotional level, especially if you're moving as an older adult who would prefer not to have to move. But this is where life has gone on,
right,
and this is where they're at in their moment, and they've got to move in order for them to live their best life for the rest of their lives. And so that emotional piece is greater than the physical piece. And so on that first call, or even just getting them to make that first step, what would you tell folks? How can you make that easier for them?
that we'll come out there. We try to find out, okay, what is a little bit about your situation? You know, when are you looking? How long have you been in your home? Have you found a new place to go? And in most of the cases, they have. They have an idea. That's why they're reaching out, because now the panic sets in because, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all my stuff, and who's going to do it, and how am I going to get it there? And the communities, we have some very good relationships with a lot of the senior communities in the metro Atlanta area. And they'll give them information because there's senior move managers all across the country here in Atlanta, different companies. And they'll call us, and we're glad to go out and talk to them. Once they see you, they want to see and feel you. And understanding their situation on the phone is so difficult. So we'll go out, meet with them, walk through their home.
Okay, so right there and then there, you're seeing a difference. Sherry in Smooth Transitions and her husband, Chris, are not just a moving company.
No.
This is a much more personal approach to helping you get from A to B, which is so important for seniors because their whole life is in their home.
Yes. Okay. All their memories.
So they call you, and if you're a child, an adult child of a senior that mom or dad or uncle or whoever, brother, are not going to be able to live by themselves anymore, and how am I going to make this transition easier? I would implore you to give Sherry a call, because she can help even give you some of that first communication and some tips on how to deliver that news to someone. What would you say to someone in those shoes who says, I know this is coming, I don't even know where to start, I don't even know how to address this with my loved one?
And that's a difficult situation. We do work with a lot of adult children. I'm an adult child. You know, my husband's parents are still living in the same situation. And I know they don't want to move either. If they're in their home, and you know it may be happening in a year, you know, you're trying to prepare ahead of time, that's good, because you can come in and declutter the home they're in. That's why it's not so shocking when it happens all at one time. Maybe you
can help them get used to the idea.
Yes, and it's like, okay, say for example, you know, I have a china pattern or my mother-in-law has a china pattern that is eventually going to go to a granddaughter, and she's recently married. Hey, Mom, why don't we go ahead and give this so she can start enjoying it? You know, China is just an example. Or a bedroom suit. You know, Johnny just moved out, the grandson just moved out, doesn't have any furniture. How would you like to go ahead? Nobody's using it. These are easy steps to start with. Decluttering, or the basement that's had everything housed in it for the last 40 years. And it's more of a spring cleaning effect, makes it a little easier. And that's when the family can be involved.
And you never know what you find while you're going through that basement.
Let me tell you, we had a client in Canton, and Chris and I were hired to handle just the basement. The family handled the upstairs. It was their mother, and we handled a 2,500 square foot basement that was packed top to bottom, front to back, never been unpacked since it was moved there. And the family was like, just get rid of it. It's obviously stuff they don't want. And they're like, no, we really can't do that. So by the time we were said and done, we filled up 2 4-ton dumpsters with trash. We filled up 3 donation trucks. But we also filled up 2 moving vans that went to auction because of the items that we found when we dug out of every box. You know, we were finding sterling silver, vintage pearls, Coca-Cola memorabilia. And the family's like, wow, you found all this down here? It's like, yeah. You know, we're not just going to chunk a box in a garbage can.
And see, that's another thing that's different from just a general moving company.
Right.
You're going to come in and you're not just going to help them move, but you're going to make sure they know they have valuables. And that, in and of itself, sending it to auction can offset the price or pay for or even earn you more money than the cost of the move itself.
Absolutely. And, you know, I know what I like. I don't know what it's worth. So even though we don't run the estate sales, we will help connect you to people who do have that knowledge and can handle that. And this family did very well in the end. They paid for our services, plus was able to put money aside for their senior that was now living in a high-level assisted care.
And I wanna get on this soapbox for a minute, because we don't plan. That's why they're calling you in crisis when it's time to move. But also, you have to plan for the future. This is just the first step in the rest of the life of your loved one. And so in a situation like that, that's a good time to put that money away and save it for when, God forbid, that loved one should need in-home care. If you can't get time off of work to be there around the clock to take care of someone, that's theirs. And it, as hard as it is not to say, oh, okay, well, now she's moving so we can get her this, that, and the other thing or whatever, or use it to all go on a trip. Those are all wonderful things. But this is the beginning of the next journey. And so many times I see people going to work every day and struggling to take care of their loved one at night and overnight and can't afford to get an in-home caregiver 1 or 2 nights a week just so they can get a good night's sleep. Put that money away for the future because you don't know what the future holds.
Absolutely.
Okay. So to get back on the moving component, so you help emotionally, you help them maybe have those conversations with their loved one from the start if you get the call from the adult child. And what do you tell them? What's the best way to have that conversation with their loved one?
You know, it's never easy because as parents, I'm a parent, I want to be in control of my life for the rest of my life. But, you know, my kids eventually are going to step into and want to take over. And as reluctant as many of our clients have been from moving from their home of 40 years, there's social isolation, their diets suffer, their physical being suffers, whether they really realize it or not. Day by day, it takes a toll. I have seen so many of them move into these communities, and we're in and out of them all the time, and seeing them after the move, and they're thriving again. They've made new friends. They're with people who have the same age experiences, life experiences, been through a lot of the same things that have gone on in the world, you know, in the history. And they're thriving again.
And it's easy to just get in the elevator and go downstairs.
Yes.
You know, and get in the shuttle and go to Walmart or go to Publix and all the friendships that you make. You're never too old to make friends.
No.
And that's what your book is about, the importance of those friendships and those bonds. And it gives you renewed energy and renewed perspective and renewed zest for living. And I've seen it as well. So this is not just Smooth Transitions is going to help move folks from place to place, but this is so much more than a moving agency. And I would tell you that moving is so difficult. I had to move, I think we talked about this the last time you were on the show, from Boston in 36 inches of snow to Atlanta by myself with 2 babies, 3 and 5, and a cat. While my husband was down here working and couldn't come back up to Boston to help me move. And the movers were wonderful. They were friends of mine that owned a moving company, but it was a straight moving company. Mm-hmm. I still had to do all of the work while taking care of the kids. And by the time I got to the refrigerator, I just pulled the last stool from the kitchen counter that was left in my kitchen and cried. Opened the door and just cried.
Yes.
And said, I don't have another minute left in me to figure out what to do with all of this stuff.
And it's so overwhelming.
So Sherry and Chris with Smooth Transitions have a company that I don't even like to say it's a moving company. It's really, I love the name. It's a transition company because it's going to transition you or your loved one from point A to point B, but it's also going to transition your mind, body, soul, heart through the journey to your next place of living. Would you about say that's right?
Absolutely. Because we're there, we've held hands, we've dried tears, we've calmed the siblings down because they're battling over what to do with mom and dad and their stuff. We're that objective party. We don't have the emotional attachment to the memories, the home, but we do have the compassion for what is happening to them.
And I do want to speak to siblings because it's difficult. If that's the home you grew up in, again, like we talked about in your book, your friend told you she had a cancer diagnosis. In the first place your mind went, because it's human nature, is, oh my God, I feel sorry for myself because this is going to affect me in this negative way. Same with moving. The adult child of the senior that's moving out of their home, who maybe isn't that old, maybe they're still finding their way in life, that's their roots.
Right.
And mom and dad are leaving that home, and so they are going to go to that place where, oh my God, I'm not going to ever be able to go to my home, the house that built me, as Miranda Lambert says. And so it's natural for people to have negative feelings about that happening and not want that to happen. But I want to bring you to the flip side, to be that person that is making the decision for your loved one because it's a safety issue. You cannot feel bad and get pulled into that natural and logical reaction of your sibling. However, safety must come first.
Absolutely.
And the health of your loved one must come first. So journey on. Life must go on, as Sherry writes in her book, and push through. And Sherry and Chris will help have those conversations with not only your loved one that's moving, but your siblings as well. And then maybe get outside resources in if more is involved, because we don't want this to break up families.
No.
And it can. With a regular moving company, and they're great too, but in some situations, you're so important to this piece, not just for the person moving, but for keeping the unit together.
That's our intention. We want to understand everybody has a stake in this, and it hits everybody right in their heart. And we're there to make those objective opinions and, some flat out, straight, honest truth with the sincerity and compassion that it needs. And that's why we love what we're doing. We cared for my grandmother. She lived with us. We understand what it's all about. I was the power of attorney out of 8 grandchildren, and I had to make tough decisions and say, I hate it for you.
Right.
But grandma's first.
Right. And
Period.
It's with that open heart.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you're helping folks move. You come in, you'll go through either just basements or the whole house. You'll do as much or as little as the family wants. You'll
Right.
come out and meet with them, find out what their needs are, and give them a proposal so they always know up front what's going to happen.
Yes.
As much as possible, because you never know what you're going to end up finding. And then you go soup to nuts. You just you put it in 3 piles, right?
Right.
Donate, throw away, keep.
Right.
Oh no, 4 piles. Auction.
Or giving to family members or what's
Oh my
getting
God. Okay,
paid.
so
we
there's
end up with
several
several
piles.
But yes, that's what we do. And if the senior's going into a community, if it's local, that's the first objective. Get them with the things that can fit in their new life and the things they've treasured to that community. Let them start living their life and enjoying it. Then let's go back and take care of the house.
I see. So how long does that whole process take?
It really depends on the involvement of the family. Some of our clients don't have family. So to make that happen can be very difficult if they don't have an outside source with them. So we'll work within it. We moved, I remember a job, we had one of our first jobs. It was a 3,000 square foot house. The daughter was, it was her parents' home. She had lived there, come back to take care of them. Both of them had passed away. It was a 3-story home that had her parents' things in it, her things in it, and her sister's things in it. She had 3 weeks to a closing date. And she was working full time.
Wow.
So she left Chris and I with the key, and we worked out a plan. We would come in during the day, sort through, have preliminary talks about what's happening, sort through what was obvious, and leave her little task at night that she could handle. And she was moving to Texas. And that house was sold. We hit it in 3 weeks.
And what else I like is that if you get a crisis call and someone's got to go, something happened, they had a fall, they went into the hospital, and they need to go to an assisted living facility, you can get to them right away.
We will do everything in our power to. We can't, things we've already got scheduled, of course, if we've got a move day. Pack day is different. I can kind of work around those. But move days are hard. But we'll do everything in our power to get to them and make it happen quickly. This past March went crazy. We worked almost 30 days straight, including the weekends. It's not what I want to do every weekend, but it kind of happened that way.
I'm sure.
And in our industry, it's not always on a Monday at 9 o'clock.
No. It's not Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for sure.
It's not.
Now, when you first came on the show, you were taking care of seniors moving, but you were also building your business, so you were a moving company for whoever called you. Are you still doing that, or are you more geared towards seniors?
Our youngest, it's funny, seniors, now that I'm in the 50 range.
Yeah, that's right. We don't mean middle age and on up.
Right. Our youngest client so far has been 55, and our oldest has been 97. And if things were slow and there were people under that age range that needed some guidance and some help, because it's funny, the younger ones can do more, and they just may not have a plan. So we'll be able to go in and give them a plan and maybe give them a jump start. But yeah, we'll go in and be glad to talk with them and work with them.
Because what I loved about it when you first came on is you would have some folks that you would say, look, here's what we're going to do, and here's the date that we think we're going to do it. But what you have to know, and I think the cost was reflective of them needing to be flexible, is if there's a senior in need, then we're going to go there. And I love that advocacy for older adults and seniors and giving back. So that's how you built your business. And now it's all seniors, so you have to be a little bit more stuck on a schedule because everyone's in need.
Our focus is definitely seniors. We are not going to bump a senior to do something else because it's just like doing estate sales. If we get too tied up in estate sales or being a moving company, physically moving, then our focus is off of the senior, and we don't want that.
Yeah, I love that.
We want it to stay right there.
I want to give y'all contact information because we've talked a long time, and I haven't told them how to get in touch with you. The company is Smooth Transitions of Greater Atlanta, and the website is www.movingforseniors.com. So don't look up Smooth Transitions. Look up www.movingforseniors.com. And you can also reach Sherry on her cell at 678. When do you ever sleep? At 678-628-7648. And if you just want to talk to her by email, you can email her at Sherry, SHERRI, at movingforseniors.com. So I love your service, wonderful service. I love your mission, gearing it towards seniors. I absolutely love your new book, Life Must Go On. And, even... I know it's a sad time and a tough time for seniors, but the lessons in this book could even help seniors that are going through the move right now, because it is about letting go of the past and pulling in the positive memories from the past to help you live your future.
Sure.
So it ties right in with starting new. I think this should be put on all the coffee tables of all your moving folks. You can build that into the price.
That might be an idea there. They have to do that. Give them a little jump start.
So before we go, and I don't know if you're ready because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I know you're working on book number 2. Do you want to talk about what's in the works, and do you have a title or when it might get published, or is everything still kind of up in the air?
I don't have a title, and I think from my gut what I really want to be focused on is being an inspirational writer and going farther back, bringing some of the secrets maybe out of my past and how you survive them. We all go through it, but how do we get from here to here? And that one split decision changes the course of your life. I want to inspire people to do the best for them and get out of the negative and move on because somebody else did it too.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that book. That is right up my alley. So, Sherry, thank you for joining us again today. It's so good to see you again. Congratulations on your new accomplishment, and I look forward to having you back when your next book comes
Thank
up.
you so much. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
All right. I'm Jean Pete. Have a great week. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead, and listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.